Good morning. This is a podcast I'm going to do, possibly for several episodes, if anyone bothers to watch these, about Song of Ice and Fire by George R. R. Martin. I have to apologise if I sound a bit croaky because I've got man flu, which for you ladies out there who don't know what that is, it's when you've got a cold, but because you're a man you moan about it more, so apologise for that. For anyone who's not read the book, why are you watching this, for one? That's a bit strange. For those of you that have, I won't go into what it is because you should know. All I will say is that if you haven't read A Feast for Crows and all the books leading up to it, don't continue watching because there are going to be spoilers. And I just want to talk about a couple of basic things in this first one. I'm going to try and cover why I think the books are good and better than good. I'm going to cover what I think about the proposed TV show, should it happen. And I'm going to avoid the elephant in the room, which is R plus L equals J. And those of you who don't know what that is, go and look it up, because I'm not going to explain it. Why do I think that Song of Ice and Fire is any good? Well, for a start, I like fantasy books. If I didn't like fantasy books, I still like historical novels. And in fairness, the level of magic in Song of Ice and Fire is not particularly large, so it can almost get away as being called an alternative history. And thirdly, George R. R. Martin has what another great fantasy writer, in my opinion, David Eddings, calls felicity of style. That is, he's a wordsmith. He puts words together so that they look nice when you read them, so that he draws you in, and it's nice to read. It's pleasant. It's kind of it's like a nice little Mozart serenade in word form. But of course, there's got to be some substance to it. You can't have 4 or 5 books, depending on which editions you get, each of 600, 700, 800 pages long, with no content. The quality of writing will only sustain it so long if there isn't content. And boy, does Song of Ice and Fire have content. You can read the books through 3 times, which I'm trying to do now, and you still see something new each time. You still see something you missed, and some of it's you realise is extremely important, some of it you realise is not important in the slightest, but it's detail, and it's interesting detail. And it's the way he's got this incredibly complex society that he built up, and he's got so many houses with so many members that I can't keep track of it half the time. You can keep hold of the main ones, but once you get down to the smaller houses, anything smaller than House Florent or House Brax, you've lost me by then. I think it's got to a stage where if I need to know, he's either going to make it explicit or I can flick back to the glossary and find out. But the fact that he clearly knows exactly what they're all doing, exactly what they're all about, is highly commendable. It's exceptional. It's up there with Tolkien inventing his own languages for the elves. It's up there with having a huge backstory that none of us will ever read, probably, but that he knows it so well that it looks fully formed and complete in just the brief snatches of it that we get exposed to. And then there's the plot. The plot's not bloody bad either. There are lots of twists. I like twists, as long as they're good. I don't like twists for the sake of having them. But the twist at the end of a Game of Thrones, which, at this point, if you haven't read it, look away, spoiler coming. Ned's death, I didn't see that one coming. At least not until it was so obvious that you were supposed to realise it. And then, even bigger spoiler coming now, the Red Wedding. I was reading that on the tube for the first time, and I had to close the book and put it in the bag. I couldn't read on after that. And then I got a stop further down the line, and I still had about 20 minutes to go on the tube. And I thought, I've got to read it anyway. So I pulled it out of my bag and carried on, and I was hooked again straight away. They're brilliant twists. You've then got the fact that you don't actually know who you want to support. You don't know who you want to win. You might, individually, you might like the Targaryens, or you might like the Starks or the Lannisters. You might not actually care and just follow the Night's Watch. But either way, it's interesting. And there are no good guys, there are no bad guys, apart from Cersei. And that's what's brilliant about it. In life, there aren't really genuine, obvious good guys and bad guys. It's them and us, and you pick your side and you stick with it, and you hope that you're doing the right thing. And so that's why, well, I could keep going about why I think it's good for several hours, but a YouTube video can't last more than 10 minutes, and if I'm going much over 7, then I'm boring you. So I'll move swiftly on to the TV series. I'm generally sceptical about doing any book to film or book to TV series conversion when you've got a very long, detailed book. I don't mind if it's a short book. I think that works very well. Stephen King novella is a perfect length for a film. But A Song of Ice and Fire, the shortest book, is about 700 pages. Now, even if they do 10 episodes a book, that's 70 pages. A 70-page script. That's more than to say it's an hour-long episode, that's more than a page a minute. You can't do that. My second problem is that so much of the exposition, of the intrigue, of which there's much, is internal monologue. It's almost a soliloquy. And you can't do that very well in television. You can do it in theatre, but you can't really do it in film and TV. So I think they will struggle to get the level of complexity. My main problem, though, is who's doing it. In that, I think I'm right in saying that a lot of the people worked on Rome. Now, I'm probably going to get shouted down for saying this, but I didn't like Rome. I did a lot of classics and Latin at school, so I know a bit about ancient Rome. And so much of it seemed completely wrong to me. There was so many liberties they took with history, and convenient things they avoided for the sake of having a good sex scene or a good violence scene. And I really don't want to see The Song of Ice and Fire go that way. It's better than that. It's a genuinely complex story of which sex and violence is a part. Yeah, of course it is, because it's a part of life. But it's not the main thing. And you can easily see the TV producers thinking, right, sex and violence sells. This is a fantasy series. We don't just want to sell this to fantasy geeks, we want to hook in the mainstream as well. So let's do it by having this rampant orgy every week and a massacre of unnamed, faceless people to satisfy people's bloodlust, which would be criminal. Now, what helps, I think, is the fact that George R.R. Martin is on board and that he's got a great experience of working in television. But it's still a fear of mine. And that's basically all I feel about it. So I'm going to finish there. I've avoided the elephant in the room. If anyone watches this, I may do a second one on the elephant in the room, which is R plus L equals J. Until then, thank you for watching.